My name is Katrin McCarthy. I'm originally from Austria.
And I'm the lucky guy who's her husband. I'm Keith McCarthy. We were wed 40 years ago.
I'm Dave Wolfenberger.
Mitzwe.
My name is John Lowen. This is my queen, Sandra Lowen. And what I do for a living is figure out the mystery of this woman.
I'm Matthew Breland. I'm 29. I'm a software developer.
I'm Yoshie Manaka. I am 31 years old.
My name's Elizabeth Manaka.
My name is Toshimasa Manaka.
We flew here for our daughter's wedding.
This ceremony in particular, the theme was daffodils. Mother Moon really loves daffodils because they're the first sign of spring and winter. Our parents were married 40 years ago, and I'm getting the sense that like 40 years later, there is like this new coming of hope and life, and it feels very special to be blessed at this time.
You know, being able to see Reverend Mrs. Moon kind of come out there, and you know, she's 78 years old, and she's in front of an entire audience of 2,100 couples, and who knows how many more thousands, friends and family. It just shows you how important this all is to her, and that just reminds me of really all of the couples that have come before us who have joined on this kind of blessing, ideal, even mission in a lot of ways.
July 1st, 40 years ago, was a hot, humid day in New York City. And here we had thousands of people coming together in Madison Square Garden.
There were a little over 2,000 couples there, and we were all in the same church, and we all had the kind of a shared experience.
There was a sea of white gowns and black tuxedos or suits. It was incredible. And back then it was before cell phones, so if you got separated, good luck.
It was a very profound experience for myself, and I'm so grateful to Father and Mother Moon who had this kind of vision to bring people together for world peace. So when I was there, I wasn't thinking so much about my own life, but I was thinking we're contributing to world peace because we are from so many countries and different backgrounds.
The hope that I had when I joined our movement was that I would be able to find an eternal spouse, and that together we would be able to build not just this relationship, but a relationship that went outside of us and to the world.
That marriage ceremony was a changing moment for me. Everybody together, my co-worker and many people together, that really made a supported environment. And yes, we're going to do this.
When we walked into the room where the banner said World Peace Through Ideal Families, I remember feeling a little intimidated by the theme. It was like me, But 2,000 couples bringing harmony together, it's an incredible, powerful force. That awesomeness and holiness and consecration that I think comes at weddings that often makes people cry, makes me cry when I go to a wedding, it was multiplied by 2,000.
In the spring of 1976, I was traveling. I visited San Francisco. I was walking through Golden Gate Park, and I was approached by these two women in long wool coats, and they invited me to dinner, and then went for the weekend to study the divine principle. And I was moved by the simplicity and the profundity of it.
When I joined the movement, I really wanted to make a better world. And making a better world definitely has to do with people. And the teaching of the divine principle, which is the theology, it has such a rational explanation about the relationship between the help of God and our ability as human beings.
40 years ago, American hate Japanese. But that group, it's a no difference between American and Japanese is just we are people. So I really felt it's so meaningful to make this kind of world expand. So then I decided I want to stay in America.
We were introduced in 1979, and it took another 3 years before we had the blessing. And we didn't see each other much then. So I would write nice letters to her, see how she's doing, and the letters back were like, I'm very good, I'm doing God's will.
We made a commitment not only each other, but we made a commitment to God. I take care of your daughter or take care of your children. You can't break your promise with God.
Our faith is that God created man and woman to come together in marriage, and when that happens substantially, that is when the two aspects of our heavenly parents come together substantially on the earth.
Father Moon, Mother Moon, both of them emphasized we want to bring happiness not just to ourselves, but for everyone, you know, to build a whole society like this.
We see marriage as an eternal commitment, which you don't really hear much of these days. When people say they're getting married, it's till death do us part. And for most people, that's a long time. I hope I can last that long. And we say it's eternal.
The founders of the Blessing Movement, Father Moon, Mother Moon, I remember seeing their relationship with each other, and it was just so lovely. They would often sing together, and they had really beautiful children. And I do think that having that example and seeing their love came into our own experience as well. But to create that love that I had seen is a harder job than what I was thinking.
The quality of our relationship is increasing. So I would say the answer is divorce. We've divorced each other about 4,000 times. The dude I was 6 months ago, she wouldn't tell. I said, John, you're better than, forget him. I'm divorcing him. Because we don't need that, you know, we pulled the weeds. So unless you're growing, you're gonna get tired of the other person. So I think the solution is growth, baby.
It's part of our faith is that living for others, and many times it's like that in big and small ways. And definitely you have to practice selflessness, otherwise it's not going to work.
When you have somebody that's committed to making you happy and you're committed to making that other person happy, it's so much better than just if you're trying to take happiness from that person.
You know, we have this term blessing, which is something that we're receiving. And it's true that we are receiving something really special, but it's also an incredibly high standard to try to achieve.
I know that the public image of who we are and what we believe is very eye-catching and affronting to a lot of people. And the reality of it, from my experience, is that it's so beautiful. And my whole community is full of people who really genuinely want to solve like the world's biggest problems through marriage and families.
To a young child, their parents are everything, and everything else builds from there. But it's really centered on their love for their parents and their parents' love for them. And I think the relationship with God is something like that. It's more primary than anything else.
The blessing was really modeled for me in my family and with my parents, and God was so much a part of the fabric of our everyday lives. So naturally, there was nothing else that I wanted but for God to also be a part of my future marriage as well. And so when I was looking for somebody to spend the rest of my life with, it kind of became very clear that that's the first thing, to make sure that we have the same vision that I saw in my own family, to carry that into this next generation as well. That's what I want.
Marriage is the essence of being a co-creator. It's the greatest creative act when a husband and wife can come together and create children and create a family and create the next generation so that life goes on.
This is David Lowen and Zachary Lowen.
They are universes of their own. You can see God. They're not just toys to cuddle. And what's amazing is, as a 71-year-old, I'm 71 now, right?
Almost 72.
Okay. So as a 71-year-old, having this relationship
You're
with
aging like wine and cheese.
Thank you. Having this relationship with a 7-year-old that is absolutely serious, it's just, it brings out a different dimension in me, and it cultivates something else in him.
I hear these stories about children who like try to play their parents off against one another, right? Like they'll ask the mom for a cookie, and the mom says no, and then they go ask their dad, and the dad says, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then they eat the cookie, right? I would have never even thought that that was a possibility because my parents were so on the same page. They were practically the same person to me. And I think that kind of unity is really what God is looking for.
He's from Japan originally. I'm from Texas. You probably couldn't get any cultures further apart. But I think with that vision for the blessing, those cultural differences are minor compared to the power of that.
Sandra was like born-again Christian, from that family. My parents were born-again atheists.
Most people look at us and they go, oh, well, she's black, kids, right?
That's the least of it.
That has nothing to do with it. That was like, oh yeah.
My parents were blessed at a time where people still had living memory of World War II. And my grandparents actually fought on opposite sides of the Pacific War. I did get to know one of my grandparents, and she was very opposed to my mother for a very long time, my Japanese mother. But over time, she had grown to really love my mother, and it kind of healed all of that kind of pain that she had in her heart. And not only that, but it helped her to really overcome a lot of the other racial prejudices that she had as a child of her era.
Real peace has to do with people. Often, we say we love humanity, but we might not love the person next to us. It's really by learning to love the person next to us that we can love humanity in a real way.
If people, when they are happily blessed and experiencing conjugal love the way that God intended it to be experienced, then they're confident, they're transformed as individuals, they become better people, and they're able to reconcile with their neighbor because they respect that in their neighbor when they see it.
We want to love each other, that's very important. But we also want to contribute our lives and our marriage for the sake of bringing a wider world that's in harmony and love. And I think that's the blessing movement.
We're so grateful to be part of this cause, and I really wish that this kind of blessing movement can expand throughout the world.
Marriages and families are the building blocks of the future, and without that, society breaks down. And when you have people that are committed to world peace, to bringing God's vision and God's plan into my marriage and my world, that's a big thing.
I think the intention of the blessing is to have that energy of absolute love flowing out. And as we have children flowing around our children, flowing through our grandchildren into their friends and their friends' friends, and so on. What a world we would have.
I think that vision was something that, if anybody could dream, you can't have a better dream than that.